Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Recovery Mindset, Mental Health and Athletes. And this one is going to be part two. So here I have Matt from Flashpoint Performance in Greenville, South Carolina.
How y'all doing? I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Great.
So obviously last week we hit a pretty hot topic and Kylan did a great job of sharing her story. This week we're going to really tie this a lot more to just how it can affect an athlete. And one big thing that we're going to hit first is just how it affects your identity, self-worth, and burnout. And Kylan, I'm curious for you. Obviously there's so much about athletes with identifying themselves. I'll tell you a story in a second, but did you ever feel like your identity was fully tied to gymnastics?
Yeah, I mean, I think my whole life was gymnastics, right? I think at some level, any athlete kind of feels like their identity is tied to a sport. And with gymnastics, you're year round, you're always training. So I think for me, it was definitely my identity for a really long time, all the way up until probably my junior year of college was gymnastics was like my thing.
What was the change junior year?
Um, well, I think you get older and you realize like you're not going to be a gymnast forever. So I think after I realized like gymnastics is a part of my life, not my whole life, it gave me a different outlook on sports for sure. Because I mean, you're in college, yes, you're doing sports and stuff like that, but it's going to end at some point. So
Oh yeah, no, I mean some of us take a lot longer to figure that out. It's funny. I have a pro power lifter that I was talking about this with a couple weeks ago, and he looked at me and goes, "I don't know what identifying with a sport really is. It doesn't make sense to me." I go, "Well, you went from playing high school football to being a pro power lifter. Even
yeah,
me, playing football, I'm now a sports physical therapist. You're in a sports field. It's interesting
yeah.
how each it shapes us so much at a young age. What about like how it affected you when you were injured? Did you feel like you lost that identity with gymnastics, or did you almost struggle with that identity?
I think being injured almost like made it more of my identity because I wasn't able to contribute either on the event or like in the gym as much. So I think that added more to the oh my gosh, gymnastics is my identity, like my self worth and my like everything is tied to whether I do good in gymnastics. So I think that's kind of where it almost like gets heightened when you're
Yeah,
injured, I think for me.
it's almost like one of my athletes always says this is the revenge tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your identity, you can be tied to your job, you can be tied to your sport, you can be tied to your kids, you can be tied to how you grew up, right? So it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I think you might have seen me send this to you a couple days ago, but it's the identity crisis of injury. Like one of my colleagues talks about this all the time, where it's you go through this period, and it doesn't have to be just when you're injured, but it's who am I if I can't perform? You almost become anxious about are you going to be yourself? Are you not? And it almost becomes more of like a mental battle. If it's no longer about your strength and will you regain your skill, but can you regain your confidence in life? Did you go through that somewhat?
I mean, I think for sure at some level, right? Like, I think that the biggest thing would be like not losing yourself, right? Like your self worth in
Okay.
that is going to be like the biggest, like that was like the most challenging thing for me. It was not losing my self worth when it came to whether my identity was connected to like the gymnastics and whether I was competing or not.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that probably helps you with just relating to the athletes now and what you do now, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody told me the other day that it was like, gymnastics ends and they were big on creating people outside of the sport. Like gymnastics is huge. And I was talking to a gymnastics coach and they were just like, gymnastics ends, but it can teach you some really great life lessons. So being able to pick apart like the pieces that you want to take home with you that don't pertain specifically to gymnastics.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, I definitely find. I mean, obviously, I've been sending you some of my people recently, but it's fine. It's finding like former athletes can help shape what you did if you had to overcome more, which is kind of cool to see. What
Yeah.
about that fact of like burnout? Like burnout's such a big thing in sport. We talked about this a little bit, and I mean, you came from a sport that obviously is. I mean, what you started at 4. Um,
Yeah. 4 years old.
I mean, how do you not burn out between the age of 4 to 22? You know,
Oh, I definitely burnt out for sure. Um, it's more about refinding the love once that burnout gets there. So it's finding your why. Why do you do the sport? What's your why? Why are you just doing it because it's fun, or do you have like a bigger reasoning to do it? So I found my why, and then every day like it was hard, and every day I was burnt out, and every day that I kind of just wanted to, you know, chill out a little bit on the gymnastics side, it was I'm doing this for a reason, not just because I feel like I have to, but because I want to and I get to.
that's kind of cool. What was your reason, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, my why is I just think that a lot of people don't get to live out their dreams, right? So for me, it was just like I get the chance to live out my dream of being a collegiate athlete. And so I didn't want to take that for granted.
Well, it's kind of cool because in some ways, it's almost like you got to choose your path.
I did get to choose my path to a certain extent, obviously. I mean, you can't choose everything, but I did get to choose my path, and I got to really see like other people's paths too. Like it wasn't just like I was kind of locked into like my own thing, but like especially going to a big school with a lot of athletes, I was able to see other people's paths and other people's dreams, and that was also really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm sure it's also being the team mom too, right?
Yeah, I do love being the team mom. That's for sure.
Um, I guess before we go to the next part of it, I mean, so there's certain things that are just so clear with that I mean, I wish all athletes would know. It's where we need to be able to know how to be able to identify what signs, which is like, are they always on, but they're emotionally unavailable or distant? The signs of overtraining and burnout. And then there's also, are they avoiding team activities, constant self criticizing, and they're excelling, but saying they're exhausted? Do you ever feel like you ever either saw that with yourself or anybody else that was really like close with that you had to help through that process?
Absolutely. I was for sure like not going to things and other stuff. No, it wasn't just because I was burnt out with gymnastics. It was other like mental health stuff. But I think a big part of like being mental health is wanting to be isolated or feeling isolated. So you just kind of isolate yourself whether you want to be or don't want to be. And that was something I did do a lot. But for me, it was more like I needed that time to myself. Should I have gone out a lot more? Absolutely. I should have gotten out of my bed and done other stuff. But I think a good amount of that was like a lot of self reflection as well. So I think my biggest piece of takeaway would probably be to just get out more. Even if you want to be in the bed, just get out and go do something.
Which makes sense. You know, I mean, it's almost like you sometimes have to force yourself to see. Once you're there, it almost just energizes some people. Which I guess that kind of leads into what we're with real support and having a team of outlets. I mean, what helped you during those times to try to get out or try to bounce back from that moment? You might have needed to reset or flip the switch, like we talked about before.
Definitely my teammates. I mean, they are all super supportive of every single like everyone on the team is very supportive, right? So it was just kind of going through and like leaning on your teammates and leaning on your support staff and being able to use the resources that are given to you. Luckily, at the school I was at, we had a lot of mental health resources, which was really nice. But even if you don't have that, just lean on your family members, lean on your friends, lean on your teammates if you're in a sport because everybody else is going like through the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a colleague that always says, you know, you get to college, you're going to find out how much you love that sport. I think sometimes that support system is probably what really helps you figure out, do I still love it, or is it, do I love it for different reasons?
Yeah, I
Which
mean it's like a mentor, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think was that almost like a way that you found your outlets, was your people that you had in your corner.
I think like my outlets were more things I did on my own. So I loved going to the gym and I loved watching sunsets and I loved going on walks. And absolutely, like the people in my corner were definitely an outlet. Like I would call them while I was watching the sunset or going on a walk. But I think too, like finding those things you can really do by yourself, because getting comfortable with being alone and then also getting comfortable with when you want to be alone to not be alone, to get out, you know?
Yeah, no, well, it's so interesting because I mean, you're literally on a beam in some ways by yourself, but you're also in a team sport. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. I found that peace in that too.
Yeah. I think like even when you are like on the beam up there, I was at least surrounded by like 8,000 people. So it's like, yeah, you're alone and you're kind of in your own world, but you have like an entire city behind your back, which is really cool.
It's almost like feeding off of it, which is cool. Do you feel like it created more mindfulness for you? I mean, I know that in own right is an outlet that a lot of. I mean, I'm not a mental health specialist. I'm a physical therapist, but I've read a lot on it, and it's really trying to practice mindfulness, finding those hobbies, which it sounds like you hit on, and finding other things that can help. Was that almost one of the things that you even know you were hitting on mindfulness at that time?
No, not really. I was kind of just doing things that like made me happy, you
That's
know?
cool.
So I didn't really think about like the whole mindfulness part of it. I wanted to do things that made me happy. And for me it was being kind of on your own and like going and watching the sunset and doing stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah, it's interesting when I don't think there's a single like when I deal with people when they're injured, obviously, but when they're injured, you kind of have to hit the psychosomatic part, and we almost see that like it's almost having to identify because they're not going to do well in their rehab. They're not going to get back to their sport the way they need. They're not going to be able to flip that switch. So it's finding different ways for us. Like for me, I'm big on practicing mindfulness in business and else, but even diaphragmatic breathing or finding those different things. I feel like make a huge jump for people. Um, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mindfulness, I think I learned like more later down when I was like really interested in like more like I don't want to say like meditation, but like more meditation techniques.
Yeah,
And it worked. And I thought, I mean, learning after I knew that what I was doing was mindful, but before I was just trying to get out.
that's cool. What about, did it help you? Do you feel like you talked about that support system? I mean, how did you find that? Was it kind of hard for you knowing that you liked kind of keeping to yourself with that type of thing?
Um, I think it was pretty easy because the people I just had around me were already so like wanting to help me. And then it was more of like the my support system was really great. I was very lucky and I didn't have to like go and seek out a support system. I had it kind of, right in my back pocket, which was really, really nice. It was more for me to try and find, okay, what can I do to help myself, like just de-stress my mind and just to empty my brain.
That makes sense. It's almost like some people they need that like camaraderie or that mentorship, but and you was almost like you needed to take that break, which is kind of, I mean, it's powerful to even be able to identify that because it's hard to even know. I mean, if you're dealing with mental health, how are you really knowing what's going on until you're in the situation? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of mental health is wanting to be alone and being able to be alone with yourself, but actually like getting somewhere with it instead of just like kind of sitting there and like kind of going down more of a rabbit hole.
yeah, which is, I mean, powerful in its own right. What about like how would you suggest an athlete develops that? Because I mean, for you, it sounds like you had a lot of resources with that. I mean, you had your coach and but it also sounds like it was a journey. So I mean, I know not everybody has that ability to take a step back. Do you have any like suggestions for people or how they can find that?
Yeah, it's really just going outside of your comfort zone. And like I never wanted to walk alone and just like go on walks or whatever, but that was like what helped me the most. So I think the biggest thing is going outside of your comfort zone and doing things that make you happy. Like going to the gym makes me happy. Going on a walk makes me happy. But if painting makes you happy, then paint. You know what I mean? So it's finding those things that like bring you little slices of joy when you're going through something hard.
Now, how do you do that when you're injured? I mean, obviously you now can exercise more, but how did you manage that when you were in those periods where you couldn't do as much?
I leaned a lot on my friends, my roommates, my teammates. I leaned a lot on them, and they helped me with it. I mean, I was able to still go watch the sunset and stuff like that, so I kind of got it in that aspect. But like not going to the gym, that was definitely hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a great place now to be able to. I mean, the mountains are right near you, so that's got to be awesome.
Exactly, lots of hiking, lots of hiking.
Yeah, I'm jealous. Now, I guess what with coaches and teammates and families, I mean, obviously it's so important to have that support system. You talked about your friends and your teammates, but what do you wish coaches understood? I mean, obviously, you and I come from different cultures of gymnastics. Obviously, the Curlies were obviously known for both good and bad. Football is very rah rah
Yeah,
rah, but so it's different ways, but kind of similar. Is there anything you wish coaches understood of how to help someone with mental health? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you had a lot of help in yours, but I'm
I
sure that's not
did.
the whole part for all gymnastics.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like understanding that girls are human too, right? And I had that, so I was really lucky. But first, for somebody whose coaches might not understand that, is just understanding that we're humans first, not athletes. So sometimes we can't get out of our head as easily as someone else can, and just like being gracious with that.
Almost giving them a second, I guess it probably makes a big difference, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever feel like you had to, like, were pressured to be able to have to push through injuries in your own right? Where, like, was it hard to be able to, like, whether it was internally or externally, did you ever feel like that was a big challenge on the mental health piece and protection of that psyche?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of sports, a lot of it is sometimes pushing through injuries. And so that is hard, especially when you feel like you have almost just like done everything you can and have done all the recovery and it's still hurting. It's just getting through that mentalness. And obviously you don't want to push through something that's very serious, but at some level I think all athletes definitely push through injuries.
Oh yeah, well, and the crazy part is, I mean, there's just so much research to support. We touched on this last time a little bit, but I
Hmm.
mean, if somebody's just pushing through their injuries, I mean, it decreases their awareness, decreases their alertness, stiffens their muscles. I mean, that's automatically going to make it more likely to get hurt. So it's almost like coaches would be smart to really pay attention to their athletes and get to know them, which some sports it's easier, some athletes it's easier, but I'm sure coaches really, the more they knew, the easier it probably is, which luckily
Absolutely.
you had it, the positive scenario.
Yes, I did. Thankfully, I had a lot of good people in my corner.
What about teammates? I mean, you obviously have that in your corner too, but how do you think teammates could do a better job of being aware? I mean, I got to imagine each sport's different, but it's still an important topic.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing is checking in on your friends who are like really always happy or always like have a smile on their face and brightening up the room. I think that's you really should check on those people, just because they don't show it as easily as others. I know I show my emotions on my face all the time, so I think checking in on the people who don't always do that, and just noticing patterns of your teammates, really
So
care
like,
about someone, really.
yeah, with like the silent top and just trying to get to know them, not viewing them as a number in some ways.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, people would always say, it's the silent people who make you nervous, which it sounds like that's exactly your experience too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's always the people with the smiles on their face sometimes that don't really speak up. So
what about family? I mean, obviously, it seems like you've had a great support system in that core. So your mom reposted us, which is awesome. But
she loves you
it
guys.
probably makes a huge difference for that. I guess not everybody comes from that same background of having that. I mean, I obviously have been lucky in that scenario too. But how can you touch on any advice that you think you'd give to an athlete in that scenario of how they can help, or even the family alone?
I think for an athlete, kind of in that scenario where they might not have like the most supportive, immediate people in their back pocket, I think it's when you kind of go and if you're in school, go use your resources, right? So if you have, I think every school now has like mental health resources on campus. So going and using those and then um, finding a trusted adult that you genuinely trust and using them as kind of your support system.
It's almost like not always, sometimes when it's not the parent, but it's maybe somebody who they view as like a parent figure.
Exactly.
I guess how was did you consider yourself almost lucky in that scenario where you had that great support and those people who really just were in your corner?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I've always had a very supportive and loving family and friends kind of just within my reach, which has been really, really nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was reading in a book about probably like 2 years ago where they were talking about how it's actually friends who impact the kid more than the actual family, which is crazy because when I view mine, I mean, a lot of times if you make your family your friends, it helps, but not everybody comes in that situation. So it's easier for sure when that's the case, but it's also kind of crazy and head scratching.
Yeah, I mean, it's the people like you surround yourself with, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I mean, this is obviously support system so huge, in my opinion, and you obviously have had a great support system, and it is awesome. But I guess is there anything else for people who are struggling with mental health that you think is important in this side of it of signs or finding a support system or how to help be able to get to that place of outlets?
yeah, again, I think it's more of just understanding. For me, I can only speak from my experience, right? So for me, it was really understanding that I wasn't alone in it and that I did have people that wanted to help me and that I did have people that were able to support me through like whatever I was going through, but also knowing that it's okay to take a breath. It's okay to take a step back and it's okay to kind of not be okay at some level. And it's important to pay attention to it. You don't want to just kind of brush it off or push feelings down for as long as you can because one day they're going to come up and they're going to erupt and you're going to be like this volcano of emotions and then it's going to be really hard to deal with them then because you have all
Yeah.
these emotions, right? So I think dealing with them when they kind of present themselves and using your resources, using the people in your corner and just being able to know that like it's okay to take a step back if that's something that you need, that's okay to do.
Yeah, which is so, I mean, I feel like that's such a powerful statement. I mean, just seeing, and I keep thinking of the person who just erupts when you say that, as it happens all the time. I mean, people, I feel like they make fun of it and say in TV, but now it's really becoming something people realize it's not good and you shouldn't be
Yeah,
making fun of it. So it's awesome you figured that out. And I hope everyone takes that advice and runs with it.
absolutely.
Um, So I guess that's it for our our mental health piece to this. Next week we're going to be touching on life outside of sports. Kylan, is there anything else that you want to add for this?
I don't think so. Other than if you're struggling, reach out to somebody.
Mental health is huge, and there's so many resources now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we will see you guys next week.